Hello, fellow ink drinkers, and welcome back to the Blind Girls Book Talk podcast. My name is Aria.
And I'm Belle.
And we are two sisters who love reading and love books. And so what we've done is we have created this podcast in order to talk about what we love about books, what we wish we could change, and just a whole variety of bookish content. These topics can include recent reads, to buddy reads, to book theories, to book-to-movie adaptation comparisons. The list really does go on here. But in today's episode, we are actually going to be talking about how anybody can become a reader. Now, I know that seems like a very big claim coming from two blind girls, but let me give a little bit of background so maybe it will make a little bit of sense. So I have always loved reading ever since I was little. That's just something that I have enjoyed all the time, always and forever. However, when Belle was little, reading was not something that she enjoyed. It had taken her quite some time. I think she was in elementary school before she actually willingly wanted to read a book. And so because of her experience with reading and with books, she has a lot of good insight into what happened with her, how she did it, and, you know, some tips on how, even if you don't like reading, how you could maybe get into it. So without further ado, take it away, Belle.
So, as Aria said, it took me a while to get into reading, and it wasn't until I was in fourth grade that we kind of got an answer as to why. It turns out that on top of my vision, that I also have a rare form of dyslexia, and it is called orthographic dyslexia. So it's not how information comes in, it's how it's transferred out. So, like, how's the best way to describe this?
So it's one of those things where with kind of different types of dyslexia, everything kind of comes in a little bit different. And then when it goes to come back out, like it's already been kind of messed up. Where with Belle, for example, for a multiple choice test, she will know what the correct answer is. But if the answer was B instead of C, she might accidentally circle C thinking that she circled B instead. That's kind of how when it comes out, it gets scrambled. She knows what the answer is and she knows what it's supposed to be. She just thinks that she marks the correct answer when she doesn't.
Yeah, this also came into play with, you know how when parents are teaching their children how to read, there's the Hooked on Phonics. And our mother, she always read to us at night, or, you know, as we got a little older, she'd try to have us read together and, you know, things like that. However, for me, whenever I would try to read, I'd always skip little words, such as like and, the, or like a. It was those little words that I'd skip over. Like, I'd see them and I'd read them in my head, but when I'd go to read out loud, I'd just skip them. So, you know, I just never really got into it. It wasn't until fourth grade.
That sounds about right.
I think that's when I started, and I was audiobook for a little while, and then I liked the Magic Tree House. So, like, that summer between third and fourth grade, I, you know, really started to, you know, kind of read, but I wasn't a big reader. I would read the Magic Tree House books and, you know, that type of thing. But it wasn't until the fourth grade book fair, and my mom and I were there, and we found the Book of Elsewhere series, which to this day will go down as one of my favorite series.
Yes. Because that is the one where you actually were able to read it with Mom.
Yeah, because it started as me and Mom were going to read it together. And then we got like halfway through, and I just took the book.
Yeah, that definitely was the turning point for you as to you picking up a book. And I know for me, it was one of those things where it was nice for you to become a reader, but also at the same time, I was a little upset just because the same rules that I had did not apply to you. And I was so angry. So, for example, I was one of those kids where if we would go out to a restaurant or if we would be waiting or something like that, I would have a book and I would be reading. So because of this, my parents kind of outlawed, whenever we're at the table waiting for food, you're not allowed to read. You have to be social and you have to talk to us. That rule never applied to Belle once. And I was so angry because I was like, why do I have to be the one that can't read, but she can read all her little heart desires? That is not fair. And my parents were just kind of like, no, we wanted her to read and she finally is. So we're not going to stop her. And I still don't think it's fair, but such is life. We move on.
I mean, nowadays, though, I'm now forced into that rule.
Yeah. I think it was more when you were kind of entering your teenage years, I want to say.
Unless it was for school. If I could convince mom and dad that what I was reading was for school.
Yeah, then they would let you do it. But otherwise, I think when you hit like teenagerhood, that is when they were just kind of like, okay, no, now you have the same rule.
Yeah, unless I threw a fit, which I would sometimes do if I was really into the book.
Yeah, I get it. So now, what was it about that book that got you into reading?
I think, I just happened to find the book that best fit kind of who I am. We've touched on this in like the Inheritance Game episodes. I've always been a thinker and, puzzles have always, been something that I've always loved. And the whole series is just a huge mystery. Like there are glasses that if you put them on and look into a painting, the painting comes to life and you can step into the painting. And, there are 3 talking cats that are just kind of there. And, this girl's trying to figure out all the secrets to the house that her family had just acquired.
Right. Yeah. I hadn't read this series, but it's funny though that your first one, I almost counted as kind of fantasy-esque in a way.
Yeah, it's kind of a mystery, like fantasy.
Which is really funny considering your hatred.
My new hatred
for fantasy. Yeah, I find that kind of amusing, but that's just me.
I mean, I don't hate fantasy, but like it's just not something I can get behind. But I don't know, like Mom loved the series.
Yeah,
and we got you involved in it too.
Yeah, I listened to a little bit of it, like when you guys were reading it together. But then when it got to the point where you stole the book away from Mom.
And I got yelled at.
Yeah, and she, and you were just like, I'm going to read this on my own. For me, I was just kind of like, okay, well, I'm just never going to find out what happens. And that's, you know what I mean? I was able to let it go pretty easily. Like, I wasn't super invested in it. Like, it was cute and all, and it was good and all, but it just, you know what I mean? It just wasn't.
It just wasn't your cup of tea.
Well, no, it's not that it wasn't my cup of tea. It was what it was. You know what I mean? I wasn't going to just be like, well, I have to find out what I was like, whatever. Like, it's fine. It is what it is.
Yeah, as soon as I took it, like, Mom was kind of like, well, I wanted to know what happened. And I was just kind of like, well.
Too bad.
I kind of overruled, and Mom was just like, I'm not stopping you.
Yeah, you were just kind of like, but I want to read it. And she was like, you know what? I've been waiting for this, so guess what? We're not going to fight it.
Yeah, and from then on, I really took off. Was I reading Magic Tree House before that? I think I was. Or I bought them.
I know we had gotten a lot of Magic Tree House books, but also I had a fair amount of Magic Tree House books, I think, because I also had enjoyed that. Like
I know I went ham on those. And Geronimo Stilton was 2nd grade. I got into Geronimo Stilton.
Yes, Geronimo Stilton was another bit, like, it was a bigger one for you, but it wasn't like to the extent of like Book of Elsewhere was.
No. Book of Elsewhere, like, from then on, I wasn't caught without a book. After
that was the one that kind of started it all. Like, you had read books before that, but at the same time, it wasn't like how you are now, where it's, you know, you don't be caught without a book kind of situation.
Yeah.
Which, same.
Yeah. But, like, it just goes to show that, like, anybody can really become a reader. They just have to have the right book.
So, okay, so that being said, what tips for maybe finding the right book, or just in general, things that people can take away and be like, okay, yeah, I can try that?
So if you're not a reader and you want to become one, but you like books, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so is it kind of more of the thing where
you want to be a reader, you like the idea of books.
Yes.
But you're not a reader. There we go.
Yes. Yeah, it's kind of one of those, how sometimes people are like, reading books and collecting books are two very different hobbies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that. It's more so, I'd say start with audiobooks.
I would agree.
First.
I would agree.
Just to, like, see kind of what you like. Again, like, for me, that was the Magic Tree House.
Yes. And I mean, granted, there is a big difference from a kid's perspective
to an adult.
It's
just kind of something you gotta find that you're like, oh, this interests me. I'm gonna, you know, see how this goes. And from then on, try to see what else you might like. Another thing that I'd say, like, if you don't want to just do that and you just want to go and pick up a book, I think the best thing to do is maybe know your brain and who you are and how you think. Again, like we've stated many times, I think in mysteries and puzzles.
Yes.
And I've always thought of in that way. I've always been a puzzle person. So, you know, the fact that it was a book that was just a big puzzle and mystery is what got me into it. You just need that one book, I feel like.
Yeah, they can get you into it. And hopefully, you know, once you kind of find your Cinderella slipper, so to say, then even if you find books that you don't necessarily love, that's okay. You're not going to absolutely hate reading from then on. And I do agree with Belle. I do agree that audiobooks might be the way to start because, as I said in the audiobook talk, when you are able to put an audiobook on and just kind of listen to the story as you're doing work, you know, as you're exercising, as you're doing dishes, as you're cooking dinner, as you're walking the dog, as you're scooping litter boxes, all of those things, you know, if you have that external source with the story, you're going to be more likely to just be like, oh, okay, that's fantastic. You know, I can do other stuff and still read, so to say. You know, granted, it's not actual reading, but audiobooks count as books. Fight me on this.
And like another thing, I mean, I feel like I'm going to be a broken record in saying this because I feel like I say it every day to different people. Just because you may have like a disability of some sort, be it a physical like our eyesight or a learning one like my rare dyslexia, don't let that stop you or define you.
Right.
Because it really doesn't. And me and Arya can both attest to this. You know, we've seen how people treat us, and we've seen how it really does affect others.
Yeah.
You know, we've met other people who are visually impaired who think they are so just stupid and can't do anything.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's not the case. So if you have something stopping you that's just like, no, I can't because I have this dyslexia or I have this vision problem, that is not the case. You are still capable of reading. You just have to find ways to work around it. It's not that you're stupid. It's not that there's anything wrong with you. It's just you have a challenge and you just got to overcome it.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, my kind of personal motto on this kind of thing is that everybody is just a different kind of smart, right? There are some things that I will say I am completely stupid and idiotic. Like you would think there is not a brain in my head. For example, when you talk to me about math or business or insurance
or law,
all of those things out of my head. I couldn't tell you a single thing about it. I don't understand the concept. But talk to me about animals or about stories or about just a whole other science, like a whole other variety of of topics, I'm there. I got you. There are just some parts of my brain that they don't, that's the way my brain works. It doesn't grasp those concepts. So in the end, like I said, anybody can do anything. You just have to find out what works for you and what works for your brain and how your brain processes and figures it out.
Yeah, because again, me and Arya may be sisters and we are really close and we do tend to think in the same wavelength at times with our 8-year apart twin telepathy.
Yes.
But again, like she said, she doesn't understand math, business, law, insurance. That's what my degrees are in, or in the process of being in.
Yeah.
Yet she has a bachelor's in biology and, she's worked as a vet tech and, she understands the science and the creative aspect, whereas my brain can't.
Yeah.
And I always say, it's a good thing that I don't understand science because I would be a mad scientist.
Yeah, everybody has their strengths. Everybody has their weaknesses. Say what you will about the world, because the world is a hot mess right now. Everybody knows it. But at the same time, what makes the world beautiful is that every person is different, right? And we each bring our own little differences and our own brains and our own uniqueness and our own smarts to the table. You know what I mean? You have that ability to do it. Like, again, anybody can do anything if they set their mind to it and they try. And I think that's kind of the one kind of big unspoken thing about this whole thing is that if you don't want to read ever, you're not going to.
Yeah, no.
You're and like for some people they can be like that, I don't care, that's fine, I don't want to, it's boring. But as a reader to a non-reader, you are missing out on so many amazing things when you don't read. Like
you extremely grow when you read.
You grow when
so many life lessons.
Yeah, you learn and you grow and you experience, like, just being in the middle of the night circus or being on the streets with Thomas Cresswell and Audrey Rose as they hunt Jack the Ripper. Like, you're there with them. And I know that sounds corny and stupid, but like, it's real though. You are there with them when they go on their adventures. And for some people, they're like, I have my own adventures and I go on them, and that's fine. You do you. But at the same time, I am definitely a person where I want to not only have my own adventures, but to experience these characters' adventures. Because, I mean, heck, I'm not going to get to ride on a dragon. I would love to. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to hunt Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, at the end of the day, that's why I love reading. I've experienced so many different things from books that, granted, yes, some are fictional and you would never get to experience that anyway. But there are some things that are factual to real life, and you get to experience that and to understand that perspective and all of that thing. And that's why at the end of the day, I think reading is super duper important for everybody.
Exactly.
Well, that is about all the time that we have for today's episode. Do you have any final thoughts, Belle, before we finish this out?
Other than, again, if you want to be a reader or you want to start or at least try to get into reading, which I feel like everybody should, what you should do is figure out how your brain works. Nobody's brain works the same.
Yes. And then you can go from there.
Exactly.
All right. Well, like I said, that's about all the time that we have for today. We want to thank you for coming through and joining us today. I know this was kind of a deep episode, but we want to thank you for coming along on this adventure with us. Of course, if you like what you're hearing, if you like us, if you like the show, then please consider liking, commenting, reviewing, subscribing, following, sharing, all of the things. Of course, if you don't want to do any of that, that's fine. I get it. But at the same time, it really does help us to grow the show. So we would appreciate that. Now, next time, what are we going to be talking about?
Oh, the episode I've been dreading to do the most.
Okay, and that is?
Our buddy read of the Night Circus.
Oh, yay! That's so exciting. I can't wait for that one.
Yeah, you can't wait for my torture.
Hey, man, it will be super duper exciting. So we will see you guys next time then. Bye.
Bye.